Hey, what's up, folks? Welcome to another edition of the Winning Drive. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn CJ Vogel, and joined by the coach, former high school football coach at Vernon, Capel, Brownwood, Belton, Rotan, also college football player at Abilene Christian, also coached there for multiple stints, also was on the staff at the University of Texas for multiple head coaches as well. And now you can find his work over at ShipleyRanches.com. It's Coach Bob Shipley. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
Hey, doing good. Good day out here, man. Took a couple of my grandsons fishing today.
Yeah.
Caught some fish. Life is good.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, I saw the youngsters caught one. That's pretty good. Are y'all catch and release, or y'all catch them and we cooking them things up?
We're catching and frying, baby.
Catch them and fry them up, baby. Catch them and cook. I like that. All right. You guys up questions, comments. You know how it goes. We'll answer as many of them as we can. Super chats jump to the front of the line. They can interrupt the show at any time. You know how that goes. We got a lot of topics we'll dive into. We got some more video game player ratings that have been released for the new EA Sports College Football video game. We'll do that quickly because I know Coach don't want to talk a lot about video game football. He wants to talk about real football. So we'll do that. We got some rankings, some head coach rankings that we'll get to, SEC head coach rankings that we'll dive into a little bit too. Also, several other stories from the college football realm that will get you guys' thoughts on, because they're doing some of their way too early evaluations, draft evaluations for players. They're starting with the quarterbacks. So remember, we went through Daniel Jeremiah's evaluation of Quinn Ewers. Well, in that evaluation, he actually made a player comp to Quinn Ewers. I want to get you guys' thoughts about the player comp that he threw out there. But also Dane Brugler has recently done his way too early evaluation of the quarterbacks in that 2025 class. So I want to get you guys' thoughts, and we'll read some of the tidbits from his evaluation about Quinn Ewers as well. Talk about that a little bit later on in the show. I want to get into a little discussion about the SEC and their transition into the SEC. So we got a lot of topics we'll dive into. CJ, how you doing, brother? Let's start with what you've been up to. What's going on, brother? How you been?
Good. We've just been navigating some of the portal news and additions from Texas baseball this past 20 hours. So
right.
A lot of movement going on. We'll get into it later in the show, I'm sure. But another day closer to SEC Media Days, another day closer to that college football 25 game coming out, Rod. So I'm getting excited.
I know it comes out like right after SEC Media Days, so I already know my man CJ. He's going to be away for a couple of days. He might take some vacation for a change and just to play the game. But let's start there just really quickly because it was revealed because Josh Pate actually had a video that he put out there, and he revealed some of the player ratings that have been thrown out there. We know that two players were ranked in the top 100. That was Quinn Ewers and Kelvin Banks, 13 and 27. Kelvin Banks was 13th. Quinn Ewers was ranked 27th overall in the game. But now we know the highest rated defensive players, guys. Trey Moore, if we're to believe Josh Pate. Trey Moore is rated as the highest rated defensive player for Texas with an 89. Anthony Hill comes in with an 8. Actually, take that back. It's the two of them. That's Andrew Makuba as well. Based on Josh Pate's report, has an 89. Then Malik Muhammad comes in at 87. Then Anthony Hill at 86. How about that? Malik Muhammad getting some love. Yeah, what are your thoughts about Andrew Makuba? I mean, I would say you brought up Andrew Makuba as one of the guys potentially that could be the highest rated guy for Texas defensively. Turns out a lot of respect for what Makuba did there at Clemson.
Yeah, definitely. Right. You know, and I think this game for this year specifically, they really have to just kind of judge it off of, kind of experience and production at previous stops. And I want to take it outside of the game, but, it kind of goes to show kind of the national perception of what Texas has been able to do via the portal. Right. You talk about we'll talk about some of the wide receivers here coming up as well, Rod, but defensively, we knew what Texas needed to do, right? They needed to kind of bolster that secondary. They needed to add a piece or two on the defensive end spot, a game-changing piece. And what do? They go out and they add a former freshman All-American, a guy that was a 3-year starter for one of the top programs that we've seen in the last decade, as well as a guy with 22 and a half sacks over the past 2 seasons. So it's recognized nationally, I would say, by a number of different outlets, media services. Obviously, this college football game coming out too. Folks understand that Texas added a lot of really good talent to its defense. And I'm eager to see how they kind of rank and rate these interior defensive linemen, because to me, those will be the guys that make or break the Texas defense in 2024 when going up against SEC offenses and some of the big humans that other teams possess up front. But at the end of the day, it continues the trend that we've seen so far with Sarkisian and his staff. When they have a hole, when they have a need on their roster, they go out and they find a great fit, a guy that they believe can get the job done. And again, to be the two highest rated players on this defense so far, pretty good additions, I would say.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Coach, I know you're not really playing the video game, but I know you'll appreciate this because you know a lot about wide receivers. The highest rated wide receiver is Isaiah Bond. He's an 88 overall, but it was revealed that Texas has 6 wide receivers with a speed of 92 or higher. That speed factor for Sark, Coach. It's even in the game they know about Sark's affinity for the speed.
That's crazy, and that hasn't happened in a while.
Yeah,
if ever.
Have we did that? I mean, they were fast last year, wide receiver, but I don't know if they were this fast all around. I mean, they had the fastest man in the history of the combine there, but true. You're right. Since Sark has been, I don't know if we've had this much speed ever as wide receiver since Sark has been. There's no doubt. This is definitely the fastest era in the history of Texas football at wide receiver. And when Texas has some really fast, they've had some really fast wide receivers, no doubt. But I'm talking about just over a 3-year stretch. And when you start, kind of looking at the totality of it, a lot of speeds. And Sark's got it tight, and they know that in the game. So that was one thing that was also revealed in the game. And I want to say he said that Isaiah Bond is 88, Bowden and Golden are both 86s. I believe he said Cedric Baxter was an 87. Anything that I missed there, CJ, before we end our discussion about the video game that you found out?
Yeah, Arch Manning is an 87 as well. So,
hey!
Pretty high rating for a guy that's only seen about 2 possessions in his college football career. Of course, #1 overall player out of his recruited class as well. But, hey, Coach, I want to get your thoughts as you maneuver through 2 really talented quarterbacks, of course, keeping the first one on campus, keeping him on the field, very happy. But is that too high? Is that too much? I know you're not a video game player, Coach, but at 87, would you like to have seen something on the field first?
No kidding. But, I think everybody knows he's the real deal. I mean, if you watch a spring game, there was no doubt that he's the future of our program, and so I don't know. I wonder, when did he wind up? When did Arch wind up committing or announcing that he was going to be on the game?
Earlier this week, it was announced. Was it
this week? Maybe something like
it was like Tuesday or something. Was it Tuesday or
evaluation?
I wonder if they were doing little bargaining there. I ain't gonna. If you gonna put me at 75, I'm not gonna be on it.
Boom. Mm-hmm. I like that too. That's a great point, Coach. Hey, I need to guarantee me at least this minimum score.
Yeah, that's right. I ain't gonna be on it.
Hey, they did allegedly, reportedly, pay upwards of 60,000 for that NIL promotion that my man Arch Manning did out there with Eli Manning. So, hey, man, you got to make them pretty good. Now, we know what's going to happen here. Arch Manning will be in a transfer portal in most people's video games. So don't get upset, Longhorn fans, when you see him in a UCLA jersey or see him in a Clemson jersey or some other jersey. That's basically why they wanted him in the game, because everybody's going to put him in a transfer portal. And 87 especially, he's probably got a better grade than most teams starting quarterback as a backup. So I don't know how it works, CJ, they're going to somehow get him in the transfer portal. And once he's in, he's going to be playing, have some other jerseys on. They're going to screenshot it.
How can you do that? How can you do that when that's not reality?
I don't know how they do it, CJ.
So now you're playing with a team, so you can go out and get other players. Why would somebody put him in the transfer portal? Because
they wanted to play for their school. Because there's some sick, twisted people out there, Coach.
That's right.
I don't know. I don't know how it works. I just
We got to get through the game, the console, the headset, coach. We got to see you calling plays, running a dynasty.
Yeah.
Happening. If it ain't got a stick, if it ain't got a joystick with a little guy eating up people going up and down, I'm out.
Coach's gaming days were Pac-Man.
Oh, what was
Donkey
Mike
Kong.
Tyson Punch Out? You know, the guy when you hit him in the belly. Soda Pop Pinsky.
Yeah.
That's about the last video game I played.
I don't know if CJ, have you ever played Mike Tyson Punch Out, CJ?
No.
Damn.
You never heard of Soda Pop
We are
Pinsky?
so old. Damn, we are really old. He ain't even played.
I know the game. I've never played it.
You never played it. Yeah, why would you play it?
No.
There's no need for him to play. Those graphics were terrible back then for us.
They were.
I remember
You could punch him in the belly and he'd go, whoop.
Oh, see, those are our gaming days. So we sound old. So all right, moving on.
Yeah, here it is.
There it is.
Look at those graphics, man. We thought those things looked real too.
Hey, that was elite, man. Back then, that was
the late '80s
level. That was next
That
level.
was the late '80s. I think 88, something like that. 89.
Matthew's making us feel older. We appreciate that. All right, I want to get you guys' thoughts about this head coach ranking that came out from CBS Sports. So CBS Sports and they actually came out with an SEC head coach ranking recently, and obviously Sark and what he did last year is the best year. I said Sark last year, he won a lot of people over who were non-believers or who were on the fence about Sark and whether he's a coach that's capable of being a championship coach. And obviously what he did last year with the Longhorns, he proved that. So going to the SEC, that's obviously the highest level. I think Sark now, the expectations are even higher for him, but I do think he has proven that he is capable of being a championship caliber coach. I mean, hell, he was really close to doing it last season. So their head coach rankings here from CBS Sports, SEC head coach rankings. Kirby Smart, they got number one, which no surprise there what Kirby Smart's done. He's been unbelievable. He's the apex predator in the SEC now with Georgia. And then you have Brian Kelly at LSU, number two, has done it at a high level at two different programs. Then they got Sark at number three as the third best head coach in the SEC, ahead of Kalen DeBoer of Alabama at number four. Then they got Lane Kiffin at number 5 on this list. So what are your thoughts, gentlemen? Coach, I'll throw it to you. Sark, third best coach in the SEC.
It kind of surprised me a little bit that DeBoer was ranked below Sarkisian. That's kind of but I mean it's hard to argue with the first two. In my mind, I'm not a huge believer in this kind of stuff. I mean, it's what we do to fill our off season. But anyway, I think the first two are right. I'm glad they've got Steve at 3, Sark at 3, but I don't know that's. I could see where a lot of people would argue that.
I think, Rod, this is where Coach and I have a little bit of a difference, a separation of paths here. Because I live for the hypotheticals. I live for the debates. I live for meaningless lists like this so I can sit here and debate and have these conversations. So I understand 100%. I like this list. I think Sark's spots, it's a good one. I actually would have flipped Brian Kelly and Kalen DeBoer in my eyes. I know Brian Kelly's done it longer at a higher level. But to see what Kalen DeBoer has been able to do with, I would say, much lesser talent in Washington compared to what has been available to Brian Kelly during his time at Notre Dame and LSU, I would be right now more willing to pay Kalen DeBoer a big bag than I would be Brian Kelly at the moment. But at the same point, if we're talking about tenures, careers, there's no reason to say that Sark should be ahead of Brian Kelly. Because, again, it's taken him quite a long time at many different spots, many different destinations that can accumulate talent to get to where he is currently with the University of Texas. So I understand it. But at the end of the day, yeah, I like this top four. Any order, I would be able to listen to an argument. Kirby Smart, obviously the number one. As you go down the list, actually, I like Mark Stoops at number 5, 6, right down there. But
number 6.
That's the guy that landed in College Station just for Aggies to throw a fit and say, no, turn back around. I haven't seen an A&M logo so far, but hey, he's a pretty good coach. Texas will get to play him this year.
Yeah, they got the Aggies, Mike Elko at number 9 actually on this list. So shout out to the Aggies there. And they actually have Brent Venables at 11 on this list behind Hugh Freeze at 10. But I would say this about I would have Kellen DeBoer actually ahead of Sark on this list. I mean, he's beaten him head-to-head twice. I'd give him that benefit and put him ahead of Sark, but I think Sark deserves to be in that top 5. There's no question. I'll say this about Kellen DeBoer, though. There's a question in the coaching community. And, Coach, I want to get your thoughts about it. Ryan Grubb, his OC, has been with him forever, or at least he was with him forever. Going back to their, Sioux Falls days, right? And now he is the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. And so there is a question about whether Kalen DeBoer is going to have the same amount of success, given he lost one of his most, critical elements and pieces to his blueprint to win in Ryan Grubb. And what are your thoughts about? I mean, what are your thoughts about that? You think does it have a huge effect on a coach like that? They've been together for that long, or can you just trust that Kalen DeBoer? That's one problem that he'll figure out how to solve.
That's a really good question, and it's a good point. I think it can make a difference. I don't think it will make a huge difference. Look what Gundy has done year in and year out.
Yeah.
Look what Saban has done year in, year out with different offensive coordinators. They come and go, and he still wins. But it can make a difference for sure. I mean, I had a guy with me most of my career named Jeff Merkitt, who's the best guy in the box calling plays that I've ever worked with as a head coach. And you go look at my record with him and without him. And now, granted, my boys played for him in 2 different places. Actually, 3 different places: Burnett, Coppell, and Brownwood. But it certainly made a difference at the high school level because he was I got an awful lot of credit because of what he did and what my defensive coordinator did. So, but I don't know at that level. Like I said, Nick Saban did it almost seamlessly. And so I don't know why DeBoer can't do the same thing, but it could make a difference.
It's a great point about Gundy, though. I'm glad you brought him up because Jay Lee has a question. Jay Lee, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate throwing it out there. Where's Gundy on that list? He gets no love. It's an SEC head coach ranking. But trust me, Jay Lee, me and you are on the same page. I think Gundy's a hell of a coach. Gundy's a little bit off-putting. He tells his truth, and he's unapologetic about it. So some people don't like that about Mike Gundy. But in terms of ball, and actually I do like that about Mike Gundy because he's interesting to follow. I mean, most coaches go up there and they give you coach speak. With Gundy, every year at Big 12 Media Days, Gundy's going to give you something, whether he's got a mullet or whether he's making some snarky comment or whether he's taking a jab at Texas or Oklahoma on the slide. Gundy's going to give it to you. So I actually like that about Gundy. But football-wise, Gundy's the real deal. Like, there ain't no doubt. Coaches, look, that team last year had no business in the Big 12 title game. They lost to was it Alabama State or South Alabama? Who was it, CJ? That they
South
lost
Alabama,
to?
yeah.
South Alabama got whipped by South Alabama. And after that game, I remember how calm Gundy was. He was like, we'll figure it out. He was playing 3 different quarterbacks at the time. And like, who plays 3 different quarterbacks other than the madman that is Mike Gundy? And then they end up getting to the Big 12 title game. Remember this. This is something I'll throw out there too about Gundy. He was his Oklahoma State Cowboys were the first team to use that 3-high defense. It actually wasn't Iowa State. The first sight of it on film is Oklahoma State doing it because Gundy he's such a wild man, so outside the box. He's the guy that'll go get an offensive coordinator from Shippensburg and D3 somewhere and turn that guy into a star. Man, he actually stopped recruiting positions on defense like a few years ago. He said, we're just recruiting body types in the back 7. He said recruiting body types. Coach, he said I'm wasting scholarships on guys by recruiting this specific, cornerback or linebacker, and then the guy's body changes. I don't have scholarships like Texas to waste. I need every damn one of my scholarships. I gotta make it work. So he started recruiting body types, and he said, hey, if he grows into a safety, he becomes a safety. He grows into a linebacker, becomes a linebacker. And what they did was basically have this philosophy of hybridism and multiplicity on defense, because they had all these hybrid athletes who they brought in really just to be back seven defenders, pretty much. And they grew into being different things. So Mike Gundy is the real deal. No, I got a lot of respect for Gundy. I'm glad we ain't got to face Gundy anymore. I'm happy about that. Yeah.
I think he's the number one coach for this 24 season in the Big 12. I think he's the best coach and has been in the top 2 or 3 for a long time.
Yep. I agree with that.
Him and Kyle Whittingham up at Utah, probably the 1-2. Yeah. Again, you can debate whatever, but I'm with you, Coach.
But year in and year out, with not the 4 and 5 star guys, they do a great job of finding the sleepers. They do a great job of developing them, and then they do a great job of putting them in schemes that will showcase what they can do. He does it. His scheme always fits his talent. Yep. And he's got one of the top running backs in the nation coming back this year. I mean,
a lot of offensive line.
Hey, come on, man.
Yep. O-line is underrated too. I agree with you on that, CJ.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. So thanks for the super chat, Jay Lee. We appreciate that. Okay, I want to get to. There's another question I have for you guys. I saw that, and we talked about this Daniel Jeremiah evaluation that he did, and we'll get to some of the questions here, guys. I promise you. So just keep them coming. We'll get to as many of them as we can. But he did his own evaluation. We talked about this earlier in maybe last week. We got into it. And Daniel Jeremiah doing his scouting evaluations for NFL.com for the quarterbacks in the 2025 class, and he did Quinn Ewers. Well, toward the end of that evaluation piece, he made a player comp for Quinn Ewers. And the player comp, a little bit surprising, and surprised me too. And I didn't think much of it, but I'll admit it is a bit strange. He compared him to Baker Mayfield. That was the player comp that he made for Quinn Ewers. It is a bizarre one, and I'm thinking maybe he was thinking about something a little bit more, maybe a little bit more profound about that comparison that maybe I missed out on. First of all, do you guys agree with the player comp that Daniel Jeremiah made? And if you don't agree, what is a good player comp for Quinn Ewers? What's a good player comp for Quinn?
Quinn's an interesting watch, right? Because there's not a prototypical fit that you can point to, whether it be at the college level previously or a guy in the NFL right now that really kind of fits what Quinn does on film, right? It's kind of not lackadaisical, but it's very easy. It's very effortless whenever it comes to watching him play the game. Baker and Quinn, I feel like, are on two completely different spectrums of evaluating the quarterback, right? Quinn's whole thing the last 2 years has been he's the coolest, calmest head in the huddle. Like, nothing will get him rattled. You won't see him flustered or upset. Or, we saw the Alabama game. He kind of got after an offensive lineman, and it was the first time that we had seen some emotion from him. He fumbles a snap on a 4th and inches or a 3rd and inches. Jonathan Brooks picks it up and gets the first down. He looks back and goes, "Hey man, you saved my ass," right? You just don't see, that relief, that frustration, that, excitement really exude from him all too often, which is the complete opposite of what you saw with Baker Mayfield. He's the type of guy that will walk in and let you know immediately when he walks into a room how he's feeling that day and how he's feeling on the field. He's as big a competitor that we've seen in recent football history. And I'm not saying Quinn isn't, but he's the type of guy that he'll talk to you about it. He'll let you know how he's feeling about stuff. And then on the field as well, I think Mayfield scrambles significantly more. I think he's a better athlete. And at the same time, you talk about what Quinn needs to do in 2024 and kind of develop that sense of pocket awareness, but also develop that kind of fastball that we've talked about when it comes to fitting, passes into tight spaces. That's all Baker Mayfield does, right? He scrambles, he extends plays, and there's not a lob pass in Baker's bag. Everything's coming in like a 99-mile-per-hour closer fastball, right? Everything's fast for him. I don't like the comparison. I've seen the name Jared Goff tossed out a few times for Quinn Ewers. I don't hate that. But at the same time, I just think that there's such a unique delivery approach with Quinn that it's hard to pinpoint a single guy to say, yeah, we've seen that before with him.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Coach, what are your thoughts? I like the Jared Goff one. Y'all remember Blaine Gabbert? To me, I see some Blaine Gabbert, and I know that's random, but he's a better player than Blaine Gabbert, I believe. But in just terms of the throwing motion and some of the physical traits that I see, Coach, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, yeah, I don't see the Baker Mayfield. To me, Baker Mayfield fits the Johnny Manziel, Kyler Murray. And of course, I mean, they were all kind of coached in, with that air raid offense. But, they're guys that extended plays and made great plays with their feet and could run and all that stuff. I don't see it. What about a Joe Burrow comparison, maybe? I don't know. I agree with you. It's very hard to find a comparison to me for Quinn because he's unique in a lot of ways. He's elusive, but he's elusive enough. Whoa! Sorry about that. I just did a somersault.
Coach is passionate.
Yeah. I don't see the Baker Mayfield.
Burrow's interesting because, again, the big question mark or kind of hindrance that we've seen with Quinn is that inconsistency beyond 20 yards. And I know that, Joe Burrow had Terrace Marshall, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. He had some dogs. Texas had some dogs a year ago, and still that home run ball still lacked at times. And so that's the disconnect there. I see Phillip Rivers as well. I've seen that comment up here a couple times as well. I don't hate that. Again, I think Rivers was obviously unique in the sense the way that he could deliver a ball differently, right?
Prime Jay Cutler's not bad.
Jay Cutler's not bad, but again, that's the bigger arm, right? You feel like everything comes out of that hand with heat. Quinn's interesting. I don't know.
You're right, because Quinn's the Kirk Cousins one. Quinn's intermediate throws are elite. Like when he's throwing it right before you get to that deep ball mark, anywhere from 5 to 19 yards. I mean, he put some amazing touch and accuracy he has on the football. And you're right, it gets a little bit more inconsistent, which everybody does as you get deeper and more vertical downfield. So I see Brett Favre when I see Quinn. See, you know what everybody's the commonality between all of these comparisons, and thank you guys for coming. The big arms. It's the arm talent. You're right. When you see generational arm talent, you go, that's what it reminds me of. And those guys that you're naming, the Jared Goffs and the Matthew Staffords, Brett Favre, those are generational arm talents.
That's why it's so unique, right? Because the commonality is there. Like they have tremendous arm talents. It's just different in how it comes out of Quinn's hand in my eyes, right? It's not that fastball. It's not the guy that will zip a 20-yard pass down the field on the dot. It'll get there just in a different, approach, a delivery, if you will, from Quinn. It's unique. Yeah,
no, I'm with you. I agree with that. That's it. His delivery is kind of a signature delivery because it seems effortless. Like a lot of his throws, he just doesn't have to put much on it. And I remember watching some of the other guys, they like Brett Favre would put some on it. Like Baker puts stuff on. You can tell. Like you can see them put that velo and put some English on it. With Quinn, sometimes it almost feels like it's effortless. Like it's almost a lackadaisical throwing motion at times. And I think that's kind of what makes it unique. He doesn't have to try hard. When he does, that thing, he can touch every blade of grass on the football field.
It feels like instead of like at times when you watch those quarterbacks, they're trying to force a ball into a spot, right? Quinn's more a finesse into the spot, if you will, right? It's kind of an interesting perspective that way. But, you could remember times a year ago, right? Those skinny seam routes up for Jatavian Sanders. We saw that a few times. He had a big one-handed catch against Baylor where he had a guy draped all over him. It was kind of the finesse in between a safety with the linebacker draped underneath rather than a bullet coming across the middle. It's, again, just a different delivery to me.
Yeah, you're right. That's why I do like the Jared Goff and the Matthew Stafford one because I see them make those effortless throws where the ball flies off of their hand, but the throwing motion, it looks effortless for them. And that's some of that for Quinn as well. All right, good stuff, girl. Good conversation, guys. All right, let's first thank one of our fantastic sponsors. We got to thank our good friends over at Flat Creek Estate Wine for all of their support. Really glad to have them on the team. As a matter of fact, we got some big things planned with our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. But in the meantime, let me tell you about Flat Creek Estate. Now, they have right now one of the most awarded wines in the state of Texas, folks, and I am a huge fan of it, and you will be as well. But right now, Flat Creek Estate Winery, just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local spec, so give it a try. Of course, Flat Creek is also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. It's perfect for a day date with your significant other or for a weekend getaway. That is Flat Creek Estate, Flat Creek Estate Winery. Go check it out for yourself, flatcreekestate.com. And also, I know for a fact that they also have it at Central Market, because my wife was doing some shopping there, and she got really excited because they had her favorite wine there, which is now Flat Creek Estate Winery. And they also have the Super Texan there. They also have that Pinot Grigio there as well. But you can go check out flatcreekestate.com for more information about their wonderful wines and their gorgeous venue. So thank you very much to Flat Creek Estate for sponsoring the Winning Drive. Vivek says Quinn player comp to Baker Mayfield is truly crazy. He doesn't have that outspoken vocal leader in him and cannot scramble as much. Yeah, I would say Quinn is surprisingly a better scrambler than anybody initially thought and gave him credit for. He showed that last year. That's why I think he's got, what'd you say, CJ? I think you tweeted out about his speed score. What is it?
Yeah, it was higher than Shedeur Sanders, 81 versus an 80. Quinn had an 81 overall speed. I was a little surprised.
Yeah. Hey, man, getting out there. Oh, what's Archer's speed? He ran 20 miles per hour, remember?
Yeah. It hasn't been released yet, but I'm sure it's got to be faster than Quinn's, right?
It's got to be faster than Quinn. I mean, you would think, but who knows? We'll see that. We'll see about that later on. All right. Thank you for the question. We appreciate that. Jedi Master Bevo, a little palate cleanser here. Lots of baseball news today. Any more happening today, CJ? From Jedi Master Bevo. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, I don't know about today specifically, but later in this week, before we hit Monday, I would expect to see another nice addition to what Schloss is already putting together since he's taken over the job. Again, 2 other commitments today. I'll go through them real quick. 2 right-handed pitchers. Derek, was it Vartanen, maybe? Campbell? Pitched 11 innings, 15 strikeouts, got dinged up after 3 games, but 250th pick in the 2023 MLB draft. So he's got some tools there that translate to the next level. And then Ruger Riojas out of UTSA. This might be Texas's closer for 2024. He'll certainly be in that setup role conversation. Again, 69 innings pitched, 75 strikeouts, a 1.09 whip. Really, really talented late inning guy, had 7 saves for UTSA as well. So again, tremendous work out of the portal for Schloss and Max Weiner coming in with these 7 portal additions. All of them have a strikeout to innings pitch ratio over 1, which is exactly what you like to see so far.
All right. Thank you, CJ, for that. We appreciate it. All right. Thank you, guys, for the questions. Keep them coming. We're going to answer some more of those questions here in a second. I want to get to the Dane Brugler evaluation of Quinn Ewers. We talked about Dan Jeremiah's evaluation just earlier this week and just brought it up, his comparison to Baker Mayfield. But here is what Dane Brugler had to say. He said, regardless of Ewers' feet, body balance, or arm angles, the ball consistently jumps off his hand with effortless zip and control, which allows him to make all the necessary throws. He has a snappy release and can just as easily rip a frozen rope with velocity to the wide side of the field or loft a teardrop over the coverage. There are plenty of examples of Ewers' arm strength on film, but I wanted to highlight his knack for timing and touch when leading receivers downfield. He also goes on to say, must improve technical refinement. Though he has an impressive arm, Ewers' mechanical inconsistencies will lead to sprays or misfires. At times, sloppy routes by receivers are the culprit as they force choppy footwork in Ewers' drops. But other times, the quarterback relies too much on his arm talent and not enough on a sound base of rhythmic delivery. Continued technical refinement should lead to fewer missed throws this upcoming season. And so he's a Ewers fan, though. He said from the start, the bar for Ewers was incredibly high. And goes on to say, aside from the numbers, Ewers' noticeable strides between what he put on tape in 2022 and 2023. And it is fair to project another jump in his development this upcoming season. And he goes on to say Ewers has first-round buzz among scouts, although his development in 2024 will ultimately determine where he's drafted in April. So he's a big fan of Quinn Ewers, seems like it. And Coach, some of the same things we heard from Daniel Jeremiah, marrying the footwork with the arm mechanics and marrying it all together. It seems like at times, because he's got the golden arm that he's had his entire life, has had that great arm, and he can make throws without necessarily aligning the footwork and having the mechanics perfectly. And I think they're saying basically in the NFL at the highest level, that may come back to haunt you. You can still do it in college because you have an elite arm, but it may come back to haunt you at the next level, and that's what they want to see him improve on.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But one of the points that you made, Rod, I think a week or two ago, was that he sees the rush, he doesn't feel the rush. Something like that. I'm not sure.
Yep. No, that's it.
Said, but I've thought about that a lot, and I've wondered how much of that is just innate ability, just kind of natural and instinct that like a DB or receiver or a basketball player have at getting the ball at the highest point, shielding the opposing player so that only you have a shot to get some of that stuff you can teach. Some of it is just natural instinct. I don't know how much you can teach a quarterback because that's instinctive to me.
Right.
I don't know how much you can teach them to feel it. I used to call it the high, like on a car, the high beams and the low beams.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have your high beams and see what all's out there, but you don't want to just flick it to your low beams and just focus on what's right in front of you. And I just don't know. I mean, I've been around football my whole life, and I'm still not convinced that it's something that you can really teach somebody from A to Z and be successful 100% of the time.
I have a crazy kind of working theory on this, and I don't know if it has any actual basis to it, but, I've seen it a few times now when quarterbacks who maybe don't play behind the best offensive lines, coming out of high school, some of those big programs, the Duncanvilles, the Sotos, Lake Travis and Westlakes, when those quarterbacks go to the next level, it takes them a little bit longer to kind of feel pressure around them because they've been protected by some of the best offensive linemen their entire career, right? Starting through middle school all the way into high school, they haven't felt that pressure as often. It was the number one thing I was most impressed with Trey Owens when watching his tape is, he's under pressure pretty often, but the way that he can maneuver through that pocket, it feels second nature to him. For a guy that's 6'5", 230 pounds, it shouldn't be that easy. And the way that he's able to keep his, kind of eyes downfield, because again, he's not the best athlete, but at the same time, he scrambles and he moves around that pocket with his eyes remaining downfield to, kind of create some extended plays that way. We saw it in the spring game, right? That first touchdown that he connected over the middle to, what did he do? He felt backside pressure. He slid up through the front outside of the right tackle and delivered a dot on the run. Easy touchdown, right? It's one of those things that you just have. And I think Arch Manning has a little bit more of that as well, because again, going to Isidore Newman, your biggest offensive lineman is probably 6'2", 260 pounds. You don't have, those guys going to Clemson or wherever, as we've seen so far with a South Lake Carroll or a Lake Travis. Again, it's not a knock on the quarterbacks that they produce. Obviously, they're very talented. We've talked all along what Lake Travis and Westlake have produced at the quarterback position. But I just think that because you see it, you feel it so much more often, it just comes a little bit more natural once you kind of hit the next level in which those guys are coming in much quicker.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. It's a good point. How much of that is just innate for some quarterbacks to just have the ability to avoid sacks, sack avoidance to avoid pressure, and still not panic, keep your eyes downfield. And that's the right, because I mean, be able to feel that pressure and not see it, not stare at it. Because if you do, that means you're not looking downfield. All right, you're not getting through deeper into your progressions. That's going to be, I think, one of the big points of improvement, or at least it needs to be for Quinn coming up this season. All right, that's the latest from Dane Brugler. I got this this next article. I was looking at ESPN, and they had an article about the top sleepers in post-spring football for the top 25 teams. And for Texas, their sleeper for the Texas, and maybe we are sleeping on this guy, was actually Amari Niblack. He was the sleeper for Texas. They said normally a highly touted recruit who transfers from Alabama to Texas doesn't quite qualify as a sleeper, but Niblack hasn't quite had his breakout yet. The 6'4", 231-pound tight end arrives in Austin after catching 21 passes in 2 seasons with the Crimson Tide, and he could be a key feature in a passing game that lost Jatavian Sanders, who caught 99 for 1,295 yards, 7 touchdowns in the past 2 seasons. Are we, Coach, sleeping on Amari Niblack? Is he a sleeper on this team? Are we not paying enough attention to the?
I think he's
potential?
I think he comes in with a great skill set. I mean, I think he is more of a hybrid type guy. He's going to be able to stretch the field and do a lot of things. But I tell you what CJ said about Gunnar Helms makes me wonder if he's going to get that much of an opportunity. You know, I know he'll play. There's no doubt he's going to play. And I know he's got a lot of upside, but I don't know that you want to get into an offense where you have to pull a blocker and put in a fast tight end without tipping your hand, you know?
Yep. I think that's a great point, Coach, right? When it's only Amari Niblack on the field at the tight end spot, how much more, kind of attentive will opposing defenses be to the play action pass or to obviously the stretch, plays with Niblack going deep? Because I think it's certainly a greater, chance that you see Texas dropping back to pass if he's the lone tight end on field than you see Gunnar Helm. Is it too much of a tell? I think that'll be an interesting kind of balance early on for Sark, whether or not it is Helm or Niblack on the field. How much more does that limit you versus how much more is that book wide open for all your plays? It'll be an interesting little, pitch and catch, if you will, as the season starts on early.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. He's got to be in true 12 personnel with Helm on the field too. And if you want to take advantage of the matchup that he could give you, a mismatch on the outside, go empty. Go 12 personnel, go empty, and you could have Helm out there at the 1, and then he would basically end up being another wide receiver for you. And they would probably try to match up with you if you're going to run the rock with a heavy set. They'll match up with either 40 personnel, or they'll probably end up putting a linebacker on Niblack. They put a linebacker on Niblack. That's the matchup you want. You got the matchup you want. Because that's essentially what you're trying to engineer with Niblack your time. But I agree with you. Makes you really predictable if he can't block, and he has graded out as a subpar blocker, period. And Sark has been really, really adamant that his tight ends need to be great blockers because he doesn't want to lose the element of being a balanced offense. And Gunnar Helm is certainly the better blocker there. So I'm with you guys. I don't know how much. I mean, to say he's asleep, I think we're sleeping on Gunnar Helm probably more than we're sleeping on Niblack.
That's probably
if we're sleeping on anybody, it's that dude, right, Coach? I feel like
but he's just not flashy. He's not flashy, and I probably didn't give him what he deserved at the end of last season. I said he's a serviceable tight end, and I think on the passing side, he's serviceable. He's not a game breaker. He's not a JT Sanders, a guy that just throw it up, I'll go get it. I'll maneuver my body in a way that I'm going to get it. I don't know that he's that. He's serviceable, but obviously, as CJ pointed out, his blocking is what makes him. That's what's going to keep him on the field, And if he can improve in that area, but you've only got so much in your skill set. You've only got so much speed, so much fast twitch. There's just so much he can do. He can probably refine his routes a little better and things like that. But you can certainly win with Gunnar Helms. There's no doubt, but he's not, he's more than serviceable. But but he's not going to draw a lot of attention as a receiver.
Yeah. No, I'm with it. Basically, you need to. I think you need to scheme him open. I don't know if you want to trust Gunnar Helms to go out there and just beat one-on-one coverage. With JT Sanders, all you need to do is engineer a one-on-one matchup. He's going to win. You can almost guarantee he'd win the one-on-one matchup. You can engineer the right one. Him against a safety, him against a linebacker. Gunnar Helm, good player, doesn't guarantee you the win in that engineered one-on-one matchup. I think you do better scheming him open in different ways too. So I understand exactly what you're saying. Some guys move the chains, other guys change the game. And ain't nothing wrong with a guy that just moves the chains for you.
That's right. That's right.
But we know there are some guys, they are game changers. And I think that's the difference you're talking about. All right, let's hit a couple of questions here. My man, Ben, thank you for the question. What NFL team / system would Quinn fit well with? It's interesting you said that because I've seen a comparison to Quinn's skill set to Tua in a way, only because they've been, and it's actually a critique, I should say more than a criticism, described as first read quarterbacks, first read wide window quarterbacks. And that's what Tua is. That's why they run a lot of RPOs. Essentially, Mike McDaniel studied Sark's offense because he wanted to know, hey, how can I maximize Tua? What's the best ways? And then trying to reinvent Tua, you got to go back to when Tua was at his best. And when Tua was at his best was one of the times when Sark was there calling plays. So he studied Sark's offense and conceptually, philosophically, RPO wise, they're doing a lot of things that Sark does in terms of with Tua, because Tua is considered a first read wide window quarterback. So they get rid of the ball really quickly out of his hands, run a lot of RPOs with him. And Miami's obsessed with what on the outside? Speed.
Yeah.
Speed from the Mick Shanahan coaching tree, which Sark is basically 2 branches removed from because of his time in Atlanta when he followed Kyle Shanahan. He wasn't going to change that offense. It was number 1 offense in the NFL and just went to the Super Bowl and just had an MVP quarterback. Not going to change much of that. So he just studied it. He studied the Shanahan offense. And he just took everything that he liked from the Shanahan offense. High rates of play action pass, the pony package that we see at Texas now, which basically Mike McDaniel runs his own version of the pony package too, because he runs 21 personnel with 2 tailbacks in the backfield at times. Lots of pre-snap motion. All that changed and evolved once Sark was out of the NFL from his time that he spent there in Atlanta. All of those, the compressed, condensed sets, all these are signatures of that Mick Shanahan offense. So getting back to it, I think he may work in a Mick Shanahan offense is what I'm trying to tell you, I guess, which are popping up all over the league.
The only reason he won't fit in with the 49ers or the Dolphins is because they both have young, really, really talented quarterbacks.
Yes,
so,
exactly. But that kind of system is what I'm talking about. Yeah,
he fits in that system, but he doesn't fit in with a young quarterback who has done some pretty good things. Quinn is, I don't know that anybody's going to waste a first-round draft pick or maybe high second round if he falls for a backup quarterback for a long-time backup quarterback.
What's going to be interesting is, do the Dolphins extend Tua, right? They're active in contract negotiations. They've, been trying to work out something for, what feels like a year and a half. I believe this is the last year on his rookie deal. And if you go back to where or which coaches were at the Texas Pro Day to watch not only the wide receivers, but also Quinn Ewers to throw, the guy that was standing right behind Quinn for the duration of that throwing session was Mike McDaniel. So if I were to put on my aluminum tinfoil hat right now, Coach, maybe, and it might be opportunistic thinking here, of course, but it's a long ways out. Again, Tua's done great things for the Dolphins, but at the same time, quarterback market right now is about to be broken open again whenever Dak resigns or whatever happens. I mean, some of those dollar signs are significantly, just out of this world. And I was watching the Hard Knocks Giants the other day. Daniel Jones takes up 20% of the Giants, cap. I think that's outrageous. And so if you're a team like the Dolphins and you have a great team on offense and defense at the moment, do you really want to give away 20% of your salary and your payroll to be able to compete at this same level? Or could you roll the dice with another young quarterback once again, not saying Quinn, but another guy who could certainly fit that system in another way, and maintain a level of, kind of riches to go out and add another edge rusher, add another, strong cornerback, whatever it might be. I don't know. The world of the NFL and the way that they have to maneuver everything, tough job. I understand 100%. But it certainly has me thinking that maybe we see the Dolphins move on from Tua after that. Other than that, Rod, you brought up Shanahan and any type of the branches that have kind of broken off. LaFleur, some of these other ones. Any of those I see as a fit for Quinn, just because again that's kind of what he's been able to kind of learn and thrive in under Sark. Any type of derivative of those offenses, it'll be a really successful first 2, 3, 4 years for Quinn.
I totally agree. I really do. I like what you brought up about I remember that, though. I think you tweeted out like a picture of it, too, with Mike McDaniel right there, like all in, like basically way too close to Quinn when he was going through his drills and stuff at Pro Day and throwing for the guys. Very interesting. And they haven't signed Tua yet. And if Trevor Lawrence is getting, $55 million a year now, Tua's probably asking for a lot. Crazy. You're right. Dak's gonna get $60 million. Just so y'all know, guys. I mean, we ain't talking about it. Dak's getting $60 million a year. It's happening.
It's all for quarterbacks that haven't done anything, right? I mean,
that's the going rate. If Trevor Lawrence gets $55 million, that means Dak is definitely getting 60 because Dak, he was an All-Pro last year. The guy was second in MVP voting last year.
Crazy world, bro.
I would reset if I was some teams. I'm like, no, I'm not paying
Keep
that.
That window open.
I'll go get exactly. I want that rookie deal.
Yeah, well, going back to Quinn, it's a huge advantage if you do have an RPO system that is quite significant in your offense. That's not something you just bring a straight drop back guy in and he just fits right in.
No,
Quinn's been doing RPOs since he was probably in junior high, But if you get a guy that is used to more of a dropout or sprint out type guy who hasn't done RPOs, there's a big learning curve there. It obviously can be done, but I think looking at McDaniels, looking at his love for Sark's offense, that's a interesting point, CJ, on his contract. I can't see him letting him go, but
It feels odd, right? Finding a good franchise quarterback is so rare, that when you have them, teams are willing to pay those outrageous, contracts and whatever. But at the same time, I could certainly see, the Dolphins have kind of been on that cutting edge in terms of the front office and the way that they kind of marry players together with the speed. And we got to go get defensively the edge rushers and the cornerbacks. Everything after that, we're not spending $1 on because they're, replaceable, if you will. They're expendable. Running backs, they didn't pay Raheem Mostert, who scored 21 touchdowns a year ago. I think they let him walk again. So it's an interesting world. So I do obviously lean towards the Dolphins signing Tua, just in the sense that you take roll the dice on a quarterback and Quinn's not there. Well, now you're SOL, right? You don't have a quarterback because Tua's walked. He's mad that you didn't offer him the extension. He's probably signing with the Broncos or whoever, but also Quinn's going to New Orleans because he got drafted in the top 5. So I don't know. That's why we cover college football, Coach.
No, I like the theory, though. I like the theory. Jay Lee in the super chat says, gotta go. Have a good night, guys. Check your messages. Thank you, Jay Lee. Thank you very much.
Definitely will, Jay Lee.
Super chat. Very kind of you. Appreciate that. All right, getting back to the questions here. Rod, this is some Jedi Master Bevo. Rod, who's your front 6 in your NASCAR package? Oh, that's good. And I do think you will have a NASCAR package this year. Johnny Nansen he's just way too creative with his exotics. And when you have an embarrassment of riches at the edge position like Texas has this year, it only makes sense that when teams are in predictable passing situations that you use a NASCAR package. That's basically when you put your best pass rushers on the field. And because they're not going to run the football. If they do, you invite them to run because you're up, like Texas was against K-State, TCU, and U of H. When you're up 20, 21 points, hell, you should invite them to want to run. They want to run, fine. Now you're going to end up running out of time trying to run the football. But when they throw it, like they did against Texas when they were up big, and they were able to get back in the game, throwing the football, abandoning the run, you like to be able to get home more, make more splash plays, force more negative plays. You can do that by putting all your best pass rushers on the field and making their life hell in a predictable passing situation. And Texas was in that situation a lot last year, but they can never get home. They can never get the sacks. They can never get the takeaways. So the NASCAR package, I would have best pass rushers on the field. Trey Moore's got to be out there. He's even the highest rated player on the game, so he's out there. Remember, Sark said Anthony Hill was one of their best pass rushers as a freshman, that he was one of their best pass rushers. So he's out there. All right. Just I might just have him on the edge. Alfred Collins is probably the only D tackle I'm going to have out there. So I would have Collins out there inside. I need one of my DNs who is physical enough to bump inside just for this specific package. So, maybe Ethan Burke could do it. He can just bump inside and get a mismatch on a less athletic guard there. You could do that. Young Colin Simmons, he may have enough of that BGO just to put him out there too. I mean, it might be that he can get out there too as well. And I might put that young buck out there. So where am I now? I'm at Anthony Hill. I got Alfred Collins. I got Trey Moore out there. Got Colin Simmons. I throw Ethan Burke. Like I said, I probably bump Ethan Burke inside a little bit. And then I don't know, you can get creative with the other one if you want to. And you probably can substitute Colin Simmons out too, but I think Colin Simmons may end up being one of your better pass rushers just as a youngster, just especially when you can just pin his ears back and let him go, CJ.
That NASCAR package, Rod, are you having Alfred Collins as your nose and Ethan Burke spun inside as your 3 and letting Moore and Simmons on the edge?
He's thinking about it.
I guess so. I was wondering if I was going frozen.
I love Alfred Collins in the middle. Alfred Collins in the middle can bat down balls. I like having that height in there.
Not to mention you'd be pairing him up with Ethan Burke at 6'6" as well. I mean, to throw over that in the middle of your offensive line, I mean, you're on to something with the edge guys coming off the top. I think this would only have to be – you could only use something like this, I think, in 3rd and 9+, because then you run the risk of obviously a draw, a straight run with 2 guys who aren't necessarily acclimated to taking on double teams, holding your water, if you will, like we've seen with Tavondre Sweat, Byron Murphy, whatever. But at the same time, a lot of talent, a lot of speed, Rod. So go ahead and finish what you were on there before you really started going deep into thought.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. I don't. You could put another D tackle out there if you're too concerned about a team that makes have to put a quarterback draw or something like that. Yes, a halfback draw, something like that. So you can put another D tackle out there. I assume in this situation you're up 3, 4 scores potentially, right? Like Texas was against some of those other opponents, U of H, TCU, K-State. You're up big, and they have to abandon the run. And like you said, it's 3rd and really long, not just 3rd and 7. You're talking about 3rd potentially in double digits, those situations, which, by the way, I mean, 3rd and long situations, Texas gave up a lot of 3rd and longs last year, especially to teams who threw and target a lot of bunch formations, who used a lot of empty formations, teams that had a lot of inside breaking routes. You guys have heard this over and over again. So, yeah, I would definitely have one. I think Johnny Nanson's definitely going to have one available for the guys. All right. UT Tyler guy, appreciate the super chat. Who do you think will be our most impactful second teamers?
Ooh, love the name, by the way. I spent a year at UT Tyler. So
second team, basically the guys who are the rotational guys who are backing up the frontline starters. It might come from the edge. We just talked about it because I don't know if the guys who's going to start who's going to start at edge. It's Ethan Burke and Barron Sorrell, correct?
Until unseated, I would have to imagine so. So then I would have to say Trey Moore. If that technically makes Trey Moore a backup, then it'd be Trey Moore. Yeah. If we're talking about rotational guys who they're throwing in there. So if I'm talking about just guys who are not starting, if that's what we're talking about, that's how we're going to define it.
And he's in that conversation.
Yeah.
Somebody wide receiver is probably in that conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, is it Amari Niblack if he's a second teamer?
Yeah, technically, I guess so.
Jaden Blue?
Jaden Blue. That's it.
Ryan Wingo.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's fun that this conversation a year ago, we're probably trying to struggle to come up with a name or two or three. We just got 6 or 7 off the top like it was nothing. That's the sign of a good team.
I like
you're going to have some good backups at safety and linebacker too.
Yeah, because Taft Daddy now could end up basically being a backup because So I agree. I'll put Taft Daddy in there.
And
David, the quarterback.
And David Benda. I mean,
no, CJ just won it. It's right. It's quarterback. Duh.
Who knows? Who knows?
No,
going down each year, so.
No, CJ, you're right. I like your Jaden Blue one. Honestly, I think it is Jaden Blue.
I think it is too.
Because he's got the game-breaking ability, and he's going to get his share because Sark understands, the number one, the explosive dynamic ability that he has. But I think Stark wants to have a little bit of not running back by committee, but he wants to be able to ease the burden of those running backs and not have one workhorse guy. And he's had that philosophy since he's been here.
A little nugget on Jaden Blue, up to 212. So put on some weight from a year ago. I know the big question of how much can you use him within the tackles on the inside. 212, you can certainly run between your tackles, your guards over your center and get some work done there. So good for Jaden Blue. He's been he's been killing it in workouts so far this offseason.
He's one of the fastest players in the country coming back. All right, getting back to the questions here. Michael Ortiz wants to know, what's the fix for Quinn's blocked passes, most notable against Washington in the spring game? No, you're right, Michael. Give Washington a ton of credit. Bingo. Because it wasn't a huge issue like for Quinn during the season. That was a game plan for Washington. That was game. Yeah, as coach, you remember why that was game plan specific. They specifically on a lot of those RPO throws, those quick throws, knowing that he's throwing from a lot of weird off-platform angles, they got their hands up. You can't get home, get your hands up, and they got their hands up. And I do wonder now if teams will, when they're going up against Quinn this season specifically, have that approach that Washington had, coach, because I want to get 4 deflected passes against Quinn early in that game.
Rod, you know where it started? Oklahoma State. Again, Mike Gundy.
Gundy.
Again.
That damn Gundy.
Newman.
Newman. There you go. That's exactly Gundy.
It always is, but in the 12 games leading up in the regular season, Quinn had 5 total batted balls at the line of scrimmage.
Okay.
Oklahoma State gets 2, Washington gets 3. In those final 2 games, your playoff games there, Quinn has matched his entire regular season total in batted passes. So, again, I think it was Mike Gundy and that defense kind of figuring out, hey, if it's not on the outside, if it's not deep, we can get in the RPO lanes. We can stop these bang 8 routes that Texas likes to run pretty often. And what did we see in that first 2-3 series against Washington? Well, Texas couldn't really do anything, right? Balls were hitting the ground before they even crossed 3 yards beyond the line of scrimmage because they had just jumped into passing lanes. They had done a tremendous job of making that what they wanted to stop against Texas, and it certainly worked.
That's great. Give me that number again, CJ. That was a great number.
They had 5 batted passes through the first 12 games of the season. That's 2 against Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game, 3 against Washington in the Sugar Bowl, 5 total. So 10 batted passes, half of them coming against Oklahoma State and Washington.
That is a great stat, CJ. Damn, that guy like Coach Gundy.
When you're trading tape, you trade the end zone copy too, as you well know, Rod. And that shows you you have a tight and a wide end zone angle. It shows you throwing lanes. It's hard from a press box view to know exactly what the throwing lane is, but we don't get to see it too much because the TV doesn't show that. But in film trade, they've got a tight and a wide end zone view, and that shows your throwing lanes. And you can go in there. They have those screens you can mark on them, and they can just just draw lines, how many passes, where those throwing lanes were on certain RPO passes, and make sure they have somebody in those lanes.
That's brilliant. Good stuff there, Coach. So, Coach,
Coach,
what do you
think lasted so? How did that not come about in other, defensive meeting rooms? Is it just like, did one coach have a lower camera? Like, could they finally realize the trajectory of the ball one day, or is it just thinking outside the box a little bit?
No, I think it's coaches that are leaving no stone unturned when they're trying to stop the Texas offense, and I think that's also a great point. People, everybody, when you watch film, you watch, especially early in the season, you're going to watch all the games from the year before, and the last 2 games are going to really show that. And so it's going to have to be something that he's going to have to overcome, or it could be a lot of blocked passes this season as defensive coordinators check that film out and see that he's been exposed somewhat. And some of that also can be taken away. I used to teach offensive line, when a guy goes up, you gut punch him. Hands down. Get his hands down quick. Because he's in the air. You just punch him right in the gut. That gets his hands down, whether it's a pass or not. If he's jumping, his hands are in the air, you gut punch him. And hope he doesn't have good timing, and hope he remembers that the next time he thinks about jumping up in the air with his hands up.
Hope he's got an empty stomach.
Yeah.
That's it. You're right about that, Coach. That's you're naturally, when you're like this, somebody hits you like this, you naturally.
It's exposing your belly. Yeah.
Big
guys don't like to be hit in the belly.
I like that. All right. Another question here. Thank you for that one, Michael. That was a really good question, Michael Ortiz. Thank you for that. It says, Cisco, what is the floor and the ceiling for Texas first season in the SEC? Floor and ceiling. What do we think? Worst case, don't say worst case scenario, but let's just say the SEC is a tougher transition than anticipated. What do you think what the record would be, as they're saying, the floor for Texas in the first season of the SEC? Are we saying 8-4? Is it possible for this team to go 8-4 in the SEC?
Very unlikely, but hey, it's a much tougher conference. Texas played a lot of close games a year ago. Play the defending champs. You play the number 1 team in the country. Worst case, I think worst case is losing to Oklahoma and Texas A&M in the same year, regardless of whatever else happens there. But at the same time, I think 4 losses is without a playoff, without a championship game appearance. That's a lot. So we'll see. I think best case is 11-1. I just think it's too much of a gauntlet, if you will, for Texas, especially with Oklahoma and Georgia back-to-back. I just don't see a path to going undefeated in the regular season right now.
Coach, what about you? Floor ceiling for Texas heading into the SEC?
Yeah, well, I think it's possible to go 12-0. That's but CJ makes a great point, and having those games back-to-back. We all, in the back of our mind, think we could be 12-0. Every one of us think that it's a possibility. So I'm gonna say 12-0, and then I'm gonna say 8-4.
Yeah, and at 8-4, you lose that's like CJ said. It's kind of that doomsday. You lose to A&M, and you lose to Oklahoma, and
you could have used to Michigan. You could
lose to Georgia. That's what I'm saying. You lose all the big games. Basically, you would lose all your big games that year.
Yeah. Which is not going to happen. That's not. I don't believe that'll happen.
I think 9-3 is my floor. Ceiling for me, I'm with CJ. I think 11-1. Going undefeated. I don't even want to put that out there. I feel like I'm jinxing something, man. Going undefeated is just so rare to go undefeated. I played football for a long. Coach, how many undefeated teams did you play for or coach in your entire career?
2.
How long did you coach and play?
No, you said coach and play.
Like
7th grade and 8th grade. We were undefeated, baby. Burn it below.
Exactly. No, I'm serious, Coach. Exactly. How long you been playing or coaching ball? How long?
45, something I can't even tell you.
2 seasons, ladies and gentlemen. 2 of them. I never experienced it. Played football for like 20. Never experienced it. Undefeated. Guys, it is. We won 11 games at Texas. I won 11 games twice. Undefeated is it's tough. It's really tough. It's because basically you're talking about a perfect season, damn near, and perfection and football don't go together. As Coach all too well knows.
Yeah, that's right.
Knows all too well, I should say. All right, let's get to let's get to our sponsor here before we get out of here. South Point Dodge, really excited to have them a part of the Owen, Texas family. Really grateful they're a part of the Owen, Texas football team. So Longhorn fans out there, if you're looking to score an easy point this season, you can score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point over at South Point Dodge. They have over 600 vehicles in stock right now, including a great selection of Ram 1500s, 2500s, and 3500s, wherever and whatever your truck needs. South Point Dodge is your one-stop shop, folks. So remember, head on over to South Point Dodge right now. They have over 50 Ram 2500s all marked down with huge savings at South Point Dodge. Also, go check it out for yourself. You can go to southpointdodge.com, or you can go check them out in person off of I-35 in South Austin. That's South Point Dodge. Get to the point at South Point Dodge. All right. I think we're getting close to the end here. I see AJJ says Archie is rated higher than Will Howard on the game. Is that true? Is that real?
Damn. It is.
Wow. Yeah. Will spill the peel Howard. But hopefully more Will to thrill Howard with Ohio State. All right. Anything else before we get out of here, gentlemen? CJ, anything for the people before we say goodbye?
Yeah, Jonathan Cunningham, the 2025 linebacker to North Crowley, commits tomorrow. He has his decision between TCU, Utah, and Texas. Again, Texas looking to take 3 linebackers in the class. They have 1. This is a recruitment they would love to have. Again, more guys in his corner kind of sitting around saying, think about, and they're putting the emphasis on how quickly he can get to the field at all 3 destinations. Talented linebacker, Texas kind of sitting behind in that conversation. But again, playing in the SEC as a linebacker versus playing in what is now the new Big 12 is certainly weighing on his mind. So we'll see which direction that one heads tomorrow as well. Also, expecting some good news in the baseball world as well. Schlossnagle, Coach Weiner, continuing that kind of trend that we've seen today. Already 3 commitments. 1, Cason Cunningham, the top infielder for the class of 2025. We're expecting another name to drop sometime tonight.
All right, good stuff, CJ. Appreciate that. All right, want to thank my man Matthew behind the scenes. Always doing a great job. He's a real MVP. I want to thank our sponsors, South Point and Flat Creek Estate Winery. We appreciate them for supporting and sponsoring the Winning Drive. Thanks to my man CJ Vogel. Thank you to Coach for all the wisdom and the knowledge. Tomorrow, you got Coffee and Football at 8 a.m. right here on the On Texas Football YouTube channel. You'll also have the live stream, the Friday live stream. That'll be at 1 p.m. We'll also have Football Theory on the channel tomorrow. Coach and I'll be presenting that to you. So we're jam-packed, and anything goes down. Trust me, the folks over at On Texas Football are working hard for you. So go to ontexasfootball.com or head over here to the YouTube channel at On Texas Football. Thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate all of the super chats. Thank you guys very much. Everybody have a great night. And until next time, hook 'em horns.